Welcome to an exciting first episode of Film Addict. I am your host, the Film Doctor. Let's jump right into it because I'm so excited to come here to you guys and talk about movies, talk about all the things that have come out inside the past, the present, and the future. So, without further ado, I just want to let everybody know that this channel is meant to bring you guys that kind of information that's different than every other channel that kind of talks about their opinion. I'm going to actually talk about things that matter, things that make a movie good, the music, the acting, the cinematography, am I missing anything? The story, everything that makes a movie good. I'm going to bring it to you. I'm going to talk about it. So let's jump right into it. But before we do, I just want to make sure that everybody likes, subscribes, and shares with this channel. And let's talk about some of the news inside the movies. We have John Wick and Matrix, the new John Wick. They're going to come out next year on the same day. I'm so excited. I'm a huge fan of the Matrix. Probably it was my number one. Now it's my number three. I have two other movies that are before that, but we'll get into that some other day. Doctor Strange 2 apparently is not going to be a horror. Most people thought it was going to be a horror because of some of the sketchy art or production work that they are doing. It's not going to be a horror. But either way, whether it's a horror, whether it's not, whether it's PG-13 or whether it's R, I'm looking forward to seeing this movie. So I don't want to hold up anybody. I want to jump right into the first thing. We have the trailer review, what's coming soon. The first one was really good. I'm excited to see what the second one brings to the table. So here we go with the trailer reaction to A Quiet Place 2. All right, here we go. Part 2, the official trailer. Oh my God, that scared the crap out of me. I won't even lie. I am an adult, but I was not an adult right there.
It's okay, we're okay. That's okay. Where? Mom.
This already looks so good. Oh my God. There's a monster coming out of there. Oh my God. The first one was so good, but this one I think is going to really, I don't know, it's like some Cloverfield kind of stuff. I'm excited to see it. All right, here we go, sorry. Whew. I got kind of goosebumps here watching this, all right. Sweet 8-pound baby Jesus. They gonna stop getting me like this, for sure.
I don't know why you came all the way up here.
There's nothing left.
Please. There are people out there worth saving.
You don't know, do you? I do. People that are left are not the kind of people worth saving.
Oh, it's gonna be good. March, I cannot wait. So let's jump right into it about my review on A Quiet Place 2. I think that for what it's worth, it looks really good. The first one was so good. The second one, it seems like they're able to talk more, they're able to do a lot more, but I don't know. There's nothing that sets me off to say that it's going to be bad. I think that in all honesty, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to have a lot of scary points. I think it's going to expand on the story. For a trailer, because a lot of times when you watch a movie trailer, you always say, oh, that looks so good. Then you end up going to see the movie and it's crap. I don't think we're going to get that with this. I think that this is going to hold true to being just as good as what we see inside the trailer. I think it's going to hold to being just as good, if not better, than what we saw inside the first one. I'm excited for it. I can't wait till March. I know I'm going to go end up seeing it in theaters and hopefully have that as one of the movies that I'm going to review on Film Addict. So I cannot wait for it. Now let's jump into the next movie. This is in theaters now. This is one everybody's been waiting for because this movie has already been out for maybe about 2 or 3 weeks. I waited in order to do this review because I wanted to make sure that for something as big as this movie that I ended up reviewing it. And we're talking about Star Wars Rise of Skywalker in theaters now, PG-13. It's directed by one of my favorite directors, J.J. Abrams. It's about 2 hours and 22 minutes. That's just a little bit of a rundown for anybody that hasn't seen it so that you know what to expect when going into it. In all honesty, I think that it was a good movie. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad as what people tried to say it was. I have certain gripes. There was good. It was average. It was average music. It was average acting. It was average cinematography. It was all average stuff. Not average enough to give it a C in terms of a rating, but average enough to say, you know what, this movie is good, but it's not great. Because I'm doing ratings from A, B, C, D, E, kind of like what you would get, well, maybe not E, maybe we'll just do F. I don't know, we'll decide. Maybe I'll do all of them so that you guys can kind of gear yourself towards what's good and what's bad. But looking at this movie, here are some of my gripes. And keep in mind, none of these gripes, none of the things that I say about this movie are going to be spoilers towards the movie. I'm trying to be very careful within my wording to make sure that I don't give away anything about this movie. So if you haven't seen it, you can still watch this channel, you can still be entertained, and you can still get a sense of, should I see this movie or not? Here are some of my gripes about it. The story is not really complete. There are a lot of loopholes. There are things that aren't clearly explained. I think for the major parts, like the villain, the relationship between Kylo and Rey, Rey's parents, a lot of those things are kind of explained inside the story, and I actually think that for what it was worth, they did justice to closing out some of those portions of the story. However, there's other parts that are just not as clear, not as clearly explained in detail. And in all honesty, when you bring up new things, when you have new characters inside a movie, you can't really talk about everything. But let's try and clear up as much, especially if it's the last movie inside of this series of 9. I think that there were certain things that should have been explained more, should have been a little bit more clear. So as far as villains, Palpatine. My problem is, out of all the villains inside of the Star Wars realm, the Star Wars world, Palpatine, yes, he's a big character, but I don't think that he's the best villain that you could pick. If you're going to bring back somebody, however they decide to bring him back, of all people to bring back, Palpatine, I don't think was somebody that should have been at the top of the list. I think that they should have looked more towards Darth Vader. I think Darth Vader would have been a better and a more recognizable and a more enjoyable villain to have. You know, the entire time you think that Kylo Ren is going to be the villain, and then turns out to be he's actually not so much the villain. I almost gave a little bit of a spoiler, but he's not as much as a villain as we actually thought he was going to be. I think that they completed a series of 3 movies. They did not complete a series of 9. If this was the last movie to kind of close out the series of 9 films, I think that they really should have left off where they left off after episode 6, and just continued, not to start with new characters and have a new story and a new adventure. I think for what it's worth, you can look at 1, 2, and 3, episode 1, 2, and 3, and say, oh, this is this story, and this was enjoyable. You can look at 4, 5, and 6, and say this was these characters and this story, and this was enjoyable. You can look at 7, 8, 9, and you can say this was new characters and new stories, and this was enjoyable. But all in all, it's a brand new episode. It's the last one out of the entire series. So to me, I think that it should continue that saga, close out all of the ones prior to it. The whole story starts with Anakin, builds up to Darth Vader, his death, Luke, father, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that they continued that. They started something brand new and went in a completely different direction, and that doesn't close out an entire series of 9. It starts something brand new. It's almost its own entity of 3, in my opinion. And so that was kind of one of my gripes. They did do great with having paying homage to Princess Leia and Carrie Ann Fisher, but I think that that was a little bit more the focus and a little bit more of the story. And that's great. You can pay homage to her without having the entire story about her. I almost gave some spoilers. This is very difficult to make sure I don't give any spoilers because I don't want to ruin anything, but I think that they did pay homage to Leia and that consensus. So all in all, when I look at that movie, I would say it's not a C, but it's not an A. I originally gave it a B, but I know that a lot of people like it. A lot of people said that it was good. So for what it's worth, I'll add a plus on there. I'm giving it a B+. I think that it was good enough to where it was enjoyable as a third film. It was enjoyable as a standalone to catch your attention. But the gripes that I named are the gripes that don't make it good enough to have any kind of quality of an A rating. It is good enough to be a B at a B+. So that's that. Now, let's hop into must-see review. This kind of review is the review that kind of talks about movies that you have not necessarily heard about or know about, but it gives you a sense of, this sounds like a good movie. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this movie. It's called Predestination. And this movie, let me tell you something, without giving any spoilers, because there's not much I can talk about with this movie without giving anything away. When I heard of the movie, I was like, the trailer looks good, like most people say. The trailer looks good, let me see the movie. I watched the movie, and in all honesty, I had no clue what it was about. I had no clue, even from watching the trailer, I had no clue what it's about. I had no clue the direction that it was going. It just all in all seemed like a really good action drama. Now this movie is rated R, can't watch it with the kids. It has main characters played by Ethan Hawke and Sarah Snook. It runs about 1 hour and 37 minutes. It is a really good movie. It kind of talks about, and you know, I don't want to use this kind of word. I think that it's a little bit obvious inside of the trailer, so maybe I will use it. It kind of deals with time travel. So for anybody that's ever liked like Back to the Future, I think would really enjoy this. Basically, this individual works for a company that does time travel, where basically they try and capture bad guys, kind of like Minority Report, where they kind of capture bad guys that are doing bad things before it happens. But there's a lot more of a twist to it. I think that for people that are sensitive to things that deal with sexuality, people that don't like to think a lot or watch a lot of the film to pay attention to a lot of the key points in order to follow the story, you may not necessarily enjoy this. But all in all, even if sexuality turns you off when people talk about sexuality, even if you don't like those complex movies, things where you have to kind of pay attention to certain things, I think that people still will enjoy it because it captivates you. It brings you in. You want to know what's going to happen next. They don't give you everything. They kind of give you bits and pieces, and all leads up into this last ending scene, this last ending segment, this last ending portion where they kind of reveal everything and tells the whole story. And all in all, even for me, after I saw it, I was still a little bit confused. But, you know, even looking at, you know, some things online to kind of explain that story, I think that things were a little bit more appreciated. So all in all, I think that it was amazing. I think it had great cinematography. The acting, I mean, it wasn't Denzel Washington from Training Day, but the acting was still good. It was believable for, you know, for the performance that was done by Ethan Hawke and Sarah Snook. I think that the music, it was average. It wasn't anything special, you know, but it was good enough. I think that you don't need to have all of those qualities for it to be good, but if that movie can bring you in, if it can cause you to have any kind of emotions or feelings, if it can captivate you, if it can capture your interest, then all in all, it's worth being a good movie. This is a movie that I think is underrated, and I think more people need to see, know about it, and this is a movie that I think people need to watch and understand that there's more to it than just the goods and the bads. Look at it as a movie, look at it as entertainment and what captivates you. This movie is a must see. I'm giving it an A-. I feel like if I give it an A, it's too bland. If I give it an A+, that's the highest that you could possibly get. I think for the minor things that make it what it is, I should take off some points. And so therefore, I'm giving it an A-. Yes, that's right. I'm putting it above Star Wars. Star Wars is a more established thing, so you know those characters, so you have more of a connection with them. So when you go in and you see that movie, you want it to be better than what it was, and it delivered, but it didn't deliver as well as it should have. When you look at Predestination, which is a movie that you don't know much about, where you don't have established characters and you're just trying to follow the story as it goes, you have a little bit more of appreciation for it. And I think looking at that movie from that consensus made it enjoyable and is what made it an A-. Like always, I am the Film Doctor. I enjoy doing these film reviews. I love that everybody's coming out here supporting. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share. There is an email. We're running all kinds of things. We're doing giveaways for AMC, Fandango, gift cards at some point where you can get digital codes. I had to figure out how I'm going to do that contest. We have, questions that have been running during the segment, kind of things that you guys can play around with. I hope everybody enjoys the set that was built. Yes, I am a hardcore gamer. I know that it deals with games and not with movies, but you got the Nintendo Switch couch and the Nintendo controller table. Everything's interactive. This is the set for Filmatic. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, email, do whatever you want. Make sure you tell me all the things that you need to tell me about what you liked and did not like about the channel. I can't thank you guys enough. I am the Film Doctor, and this has been an exciting first episode of Filmatic.